Recently, Netflix announced that a new Cyberpunk animated series is in development, which got me thinking about what I'd like to see more of from CDPR's Cyberpunk universe. I imagine the animated series is probably pretty far along for them to announce it, so any hopes for that might be wishful thinking. Anyways, here are 5 things I'd like to see more of from CDPR's Cyberpunk universe. First, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Trauma Team and MaxTac. There's not a whole lot to expand on, but I think an animated series or special about either would be cool for more world building. Let us see some day-to-day operations of Trauma or MaxTac Cyberpsycho conversion program, for example. Both of these would also make interesting life paths if they decide to have them again in the next game. Alright, on to the list. At number 5, we have the North Oak District. For what is supposed to be an exclusive residential area, in 2077 it is severely underbaked and only has a few mansions. There's also the unused casino building that looked very promising. The official database entry for the district states, "Today North Oak houses the city's wealthiest elite. Corpo execs, venture capitalists, actors, musicians living next door to their producers, and rock stars such as Carrie Uridine. All of North Oak is dotted with spacious villas featuring their own microclimates and manicured lawns. North Oak is the city's very own Elysium, and every night citizen's dream neighborhood." I definitely wish it felt more like it. The Charter Hill district is already quite nice, so this place should be even better. If some super important people live here, then there's gotta be some stories to tell. I'm hoping they develop this area, either by featuring it in animation or making the district larger and actually populated in the next game. At number 4, we have Morgan Blackhand. There's a lot of mystery surrounding this guy, and that's part of what makes him interesting, but also why I have him at 4 and not higher on the list. I wouldn't mind knowing more about Blackhand's past, especially what actually happened during the attack on Arasaka. We knew he faced off against Atom Smasher, but not much past that. If they decide to retell the events of the bombing of Arasaka HQ or anything else in the past, I think that would work well as an animated series. Plus, we'd get more Johnny. If they plan to utilize Blackhand in the future, I think they should save that for the next game in the series, assuming it takes place after 2077. If CDPR decides to keep him in this more mysterious state, then I could live with that. But there's so much in-universe hype behind Blackhand, it'd be a shame not to get more of him. At number 3, we have the Crystal Palace. This luxurious space station isn't mentioned much throughout the game, but it is featured in the epilogue mission Path of Glory. In what's touted as a massive job, Mr. Blue Eyes has contracted V to steal client data from the Crystal Palace casino. We only get a short glimpse of it from the outside, but it looks awesome. There's also a TV ad for the Crystal Palace that you may have seen around the city. Per the lore from the tabletop game, the Crystal Palace is owned by the European Space Agency but is used by every space-capable nation and many corporations. If you take the tower ending from Phantom Liberty, you'll discover that Carrie is actually on tour, and one of his gigs was at the Crystal Palace in 2079.
Sitting on the Crystal Palace as we speak. Played a gig yesterday, had this fucking view of Europe. Shit. V, wish you were here.
Hopefully it is a location that can be visited in the next game. In the meanwhile, it would be cool if the animated series featured it to maybe give us a glimpse of what the inside of it looks like. Having the Crystal Palace as an added location in-game will help spruce up the open world, since Night City will likely remain the same in the next game. At number 2, we have the Moon. The Moon, or Luna, is often regarded as this technologically advanced place, which is really saying something for Cyberpunk. We know that both Lucy and Songbird wish to get there. Not too long ago, some images of a cancelled expansion that takes place on the Moon made their way online. I believe there were rumors for a long time that there was going to be Moon DLC, but the plans for the game were significantly reworked following the controversial launch and the pandemic. This is another location I'd like to see expanded on, and hopefully, like the Crystal Palace, is a location you can visit in the next game. Mike Pondsmith has already written 2 source books on space in the Cyberpunk universe, so it's not like they're short on material to pull from. Adding off-world locations such as the Crystal Palace and the Moon will also give functional purpose to the NCX spaceport, which would be cool. At number 1, we have Mr. Blue Eyes. Mr. Blue Eyes appears a few times throughout the game. In the base game, he notably appears twice. The first time is during one of the coolest side missions in the game called Dream On. Jefferson Perales and his wife hire V to conduct a private investigation into some strange happenings in their penthouse apartment. V discovers that they are having their minds altered by some unknown organization. With Jefferson primed to become mayor of Night City, you sense something sinister is at play. Right before you confront Jefferson to report your findings, the organization sends you a warning.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter what you tell him. It doesn't matter what you think of doing or do. You can't change anything.
What?
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you want. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
When you meet Jefferson, you can find Mr. Blue Eyes watching from a balcony, suggesting he has something to do with it. At some point, Sandra Dorset will call you to retrieve a databank taken by the Scavs when she was kidnapped. If you decrypt it, you can learn that it was a shard containing details about an AI that Night Corp is currently testing. This could possibly be the same tech being used on Jefferson and Elizabeth. Some people speculate that this quest would have been continued in a future expansion, and since it wasn't, I hope it is continued in the next game or in animation. Mr. Blue Eye's second appearance is during the Path of Glory mission that I mentioned earlier. Just a lot of questions about how this came to be. In the Phantom Liberty DLC, he makes one more appearance during the Killing Moon mission. With the right dialogue choice, you can have Songbird reveal who organized her flight to the moon.
Thing you forgot to tell me. Who got you this flight?
Funny thing is, I don't know. Proxy showed up. A corpo everyman for the ages. Expensive, understated suit, dark hair, blue eyes. He asked me questions. The kind only I know the answers to.
Surprisingly, Mr. Blue Eyes is present on site, and you can spot him twice during the mission. The first is overlooking one of the rooms you need to sneak through, and the second is when the shuttle departs from the terminal to the rocket. Lastly, while this isn't a sighting, he, or at least some people like him, are mentioned in the mission The Prophet's Song. After hearing out Gary's conspiracy theories and interrupting a meeting between some corpos in the Maelstrom, you return to his spot to find he has been abducted.
Where's Gary? What happened?
I warned him! Some black suits came by, blue eyes and all, looked just like he said. Then they threw him in an AV and flew him to the mothership!
And to make this hole even deeper, Gary, Jefferson Perales, and Mr. Blue Eyes all wear the same ring. Despite being this total mystery man, Mr. Blue Eyes is featured quite prominently. While I'm not sure if CDPR will ever canonize any of the endings, the fact that he's featured so much leads me to believe that the Sun and King of Wands ending would be likely candidates. There's just too many unanswered questions about this guy. Like, for all we know, he might not even be human. I really hope we learn more about him, his motivations, and affiliations in the future. So there are 5 things I'd like to see expanded on in CDPR's Cyberpunk universe. I also have some wishes more specific to the next game, so if you'd like to see a video focused on gameplay stuff, then let me know and I'll cook it up eventually. I'm sure there are plenty of things to be excited about, so feel free to share your thoughts on what you want to see in the upcoming animated series or in the next game. That does it for this video. Thanks for watching.